This is only the second time we've met. You were teaching me about the beautiful Peonia, Colorado. The only thing you guys are known for. You're putting Peonia on the map. But before we get into Peonia and wine, let's talk about why you're here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Have you heard of it?
Sure does.
What do you think about it? What do you think?
I mean, it's ever since I found it, it's kind of taken over my life and my thoughts, and just, I think in the past year, like having a bit more understanding of it. I guess I found it like 2 years ago, and I think it takes a little bit to kind of get over the holy shit, like this is crazy. It's all I want to talk about. It's all I want to think about.
Yeah.
And spraying that to everyone, talking to everyone about it. I've gotten to a spot where it's like, it's just kind of a consistent thing for me. Like I know what it is. I know it, like what it's going to be. And it's like just a foundational thing to kind of just, okay, cool. I have that. I'm going to build my life now. And in the last year, I've found Bitcoiners, and
there's a difference, right?
Well, what I've found is like,
well, Bitcoin's a math-based a monetary system. Bitcoiners are a
loose group of people that however you want to define it,
that are either hated or revered, depending on who you are.
Yeah, I've just been meeting a lot of people, starting with Bitcoin conference in Miami. I was just like, oh, these are cool people. I want to orient my life to meet more of them.
What do you think it is about Bitcoiners in the way we're referring to the term that draws you to those types of people? Like what traits about a Bitcoiner do you particularly admire?
So I think there's a lot of things that are like assigned to Bitcoiners. Like generally I meet someone who's a Bitcoiner and I find that I can trust them more than just the average person I meet on the street. But that's not like something I say is like a Bitcoiner is trustworthy. What I say is like a Bitcoiner has gone through this like deep process of understanding Bitcoin, which is, to do that, you got to like kind of learn to get down to something from the basics, first principles attack. And honestly, like for a lot of people, forget all the shit you were taught.
Gotta unlearn the programming.
Exactly. And so it requires a sense of humility. It requires a base level attack of a complex problem and thought process. And I guess it's like that is cool in itself, but what that does, or the people that attracts, those people then go out and they're like, oh, cool. So I learned this about money. Now I'm going to do this about these other parts of my life. And like, I mean, like, I think the most visceral thing is like, there's all the Bitcoiners that are like carnivores or just like focused on health and stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. So I figured out Bitcoin, and now I want to like learn about myself. And you learn about yourself through diet, exercise, pushing yourself, whatever it is. And I guess that's just something that I'm also interested in. So I think about it from that perspective a decent amount, but it just breeds these people that are like attacking their problems from a base layer and want to build a long-term solution.
Right. Huh. Yeah. I it's like a base layer. Yeah. First principles, I think, is the term Breedlove has used a lot. I find that I have the same thing attracts me to Bitcoiners, right? Because I'm like, well, yeah, like it's the first thing, but like, is it, or is it like they're a bigger root of the problem, right? And I think people who arrive at the conclusion that Bitcoin is going to be the future money, that those people have gotten to a point where, like you said, they've admitted to themselves maybe that they've been lied to, or maybe that, the whole world isn't like out to help them out always. But at the same time, they're not scared to continue asking questions, right? Like inquisitive minded type people who then want to get to the truth. And there's some truth, like truth seekers are rare these days too. I find that like so many people want to just like quick fix, easy answer. The truth is not, to me, always either of those.
Also seek responsibility.
Yeah.
Like we want to take something on our shoulders to fix a problem in a lot of ways. And I find that just growing up in a farming community, like people solve problems through getting stuff done, getting their hands dirty. And I know it's like, it's not physical work. It's not the same thing, but like the same principles kind of apply.
Well, it's like, I think it's down to like morality in a way and like virtue, which if you go, like, if you look back, like virtue is kind of like the whole point of government, or like maybe not the point of government, but a requirement for government to succeed, or for a governing body of people to succeed who consent to be governed. Because you have to consent to be governed.
Well, ideally.
I mean, you do.
I consent every day to be governed by the United States. I'm not uprising.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's consent. Right. But Thomas Jefferson, I hear he was a important dude back in the day. He said that the idea that any form of government will secure liberty or happiness without virtue in its people is a chimerical idea. Chimera. Like, chimera.
Okay.
Like flying bats.
Yeah.
I don't know. That may not have been the exact. Looks like it was a quote, but point being that, like, it's not government's, like, without virtue, which I think we're describing, where it's like people who look for the good in people who are looking to do things right from first principles to fix the source of the problem. I would consider those like people who are not trying to cheat to get ahead, virtuous people.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is you like people who are more moral, virtuous people. And I think that that type of person is required for any civilization to succeed. And it is government's only job to ensure that its people are virtuous, because if not, no form of government works. Not communism, not capitalism, not any of them.
I mean, works is a subjective term, but if we're looking at
long-term works over the long term.
Yeah, works for who? I guess what I'm getting at.
Fair.
But
it's working just fine for the ultra rich.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that what Bitcoiners, or just what like I've learned to think about, I guess, since getting into Bitcoin, is like, though something may work right now, like we have to look at the future directional where it's going. Bitcoin is moving in the direction of decentralization continually. It's moving in the direction of people having less control over it, continually, like fairness. Everyone reacts in the same way to the system, and I mean our current system, the idea of working, the only way you could put numbers on it is let's increase tax revenue, because if we increase, I mean, like, just saying that tax rate maybe stays the same, but like to put numbers on a government working, the economy is growing. That's really the only way we can measure things that well.
Right. It's like magic.
But
all
now
you gotta do is
the incentives are totally screwed up, because like the number just doesn't matter at all.
Right. The number is completely arbitrary.
Totally.
It tracks a moving value of goods and services, because those things change. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's like, like our GDP went up, but like we sold less things than we did last year. They're just priced higher.
Totally. It's, I don't know, being in business as well is just kind of it's wild to be in this time, just interacting with, like, I live as a normal person as well, and like I interact with everyone else, but I'm also like dealing with supply chains and logistics and stuff.
Right, which a lot of those people aren't Bitcoiners, right?
No,
but still
not.
Maybe are successful business people. What do you think that like the general population has right? Like what have they got right? And then what do they have like just blatantly wrong? I think the money's understanding of money is probably the thing they've got wrong.
Yeah. I mean, anytime I talk to someone, I'm like, they generally know I'm a Bitcoiner at this point, if they're my friend or around my friends. And they always say, like, give me the pitch, or why Bitcoin, or like what's wrong. Or whenever politics come up, I'm like, this is stupid. This is not the game we should be talking about. And they're like, why? And I'm like, it's the money. And they're like, yeah, it's the money. But I'm saying, like, capital TH, the money. And they think they know that the system is unfair, that blame is pointed in the wrong direction a lot of times. And the solutions are I mean, on the left, it's more towards what I would say the problem is. And on the right, it's like just, I mean, I try not to get into politics too much, but like, because I'm not interested in it. Yeah, no, it's more like I'm not interested in it because I don't see solutions on either side.
That's probably the most correct, at least from my perspective, the most correct approach. Like we're arguing over like what's the best way to like break the crumbs up amongst each other when like 0.1% of the population has the 99% of the loaf.
Totally,
you know,
and it like. I mean, like, I'm happy to talk over the political systems and everything and like what's best. But at the same time, like what's best for you is not necessarily what's best for me. I may want more or less government than you. And if I just want the freedom to one, save money basically, and also be able to like choose under what governance system I want to live. Because right now, realistically, I don't have that choice.
No, you don't. I mean, you can go between like a red and a blue state, or you can go between like a red and a blue county. But even just in that, red or blue, there's no, like, why is it polar?
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, I feel like understandings and worldviews or positions of how the world should be is probably not just grouped into two buckets. Like, no, there's probably more nuance than that.
So much more nuance. And that's definitely lost. I mean, there's you're with me or you're wrong in so many senses.
I mean, that's what people say is a problem with Bitcoiners. That it's like, oh, they between you and I, like, we understand that because we were talking like how we both got burned by altcoins and have learned, but like, so we get it. But like to those who haven't, who look on from the outside, they're like, oh, these Bitcoin people are just as toxic, like as like people in politics. It's like, oh, it's either my way or the highway. Like it's either Bitcoin or nothing. Right. And so understanding that people often probably mistakenly view Bitcoiners through that lens, through that polarizing lens, because they're looking at it from the same way. They're like, why do I have to be your way or the highway? Right. And it's the same thing. Like but we know that like money's a zero-sum game and that only the best money wins. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you get people there? I don't know. I mean, that's why I do the podcast. I don't know.
Well, I mean, so much of what Bitcoin is looking to do is like, let's be free market money, and the free market has to decide that it's the best money. And we believe
free market, meaning by its own accord.
Yes. Every person on their own. I mean, we believe that Bitcoin is the best money, and I think we have a pretty good case as to why it should be and why it is, why it's becoming that. But in the end, like, we're just two nodes in a like 8 billion person system. Of people.
I was like of the free market. I mean, no, you're talking about population. Gotcha.
I mean, because we're just two parts of the free market that is 8 billion people and so many different, like, you can count all the companies in that. Like
one vote, one person.
Or I mean, whatever, we vote with our money. We think Bitcoin's the best money, and like in the end, I think we're going to be right. But at the same time, like, if something better comes along, fine. I doubt it. I'm not like, I'm in Bitcoin deeply for a reason, but like, I just want the best money. I want money to be fixed, you know? And I think it's going to be Bitcoin, and I want it to be Bitcoin. But like, in the end, I just want money to be fixed.
That's, I think I share that with you. I tell people, like, I'm not 100% convinced Bitcoin's going to replace the dollar. I'm just 100% convinced the dollar is not going to hold my purchasing power throughout my lifetime. And so I'm taking a bet on what will.
Right.
There's some, you know, like I bought these microphones. I said in a previous podcast, like, I bought these microphones because I was like, I think these will hold their value pretty good. And I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, it'll hold its value better than the dollar.
Yeah.
Like, a vehicle probably will hold its better. I mean, maybe not a vehicle.
No, but you get utility out of it.
Right. Well, it's use case, and this is used to. But yeah, I try to look at that. It's like, I don't whatever you do, like, just don't leave money in what are they, melting ice cube, I think is commonly referred to as.
That said, though, I think there's like, I got into Bitcoin because I was pretty interested in personal finance. Like,
I was a financial advisor.
Yeah. So you're well aware. And I guess what I'm getting at is, like, I found a lot of crappy financial advice
That's
in
why
the Bitcoin community. No, in the Bitcoin community, it's like
that's why I'm in the industry.
there's I mean, like Bitcoin is the right move. Like put your long-term savings in Bitcoin. But like what there's like,
you're right. Most people think it's investments. It's not even investing. People say it's not investment advice. Well, you're right, because Bitcoin's a saving tool.
And that's definitely a something I distinctly say with all of like very much trying to be direct with my wordplay.
You have language shapes people's thoughts,
especially with people that don't get Bitcoin. I say, no, I'm saving in Bitcoin, and no, Bitcoin is the money.
And I don't buy Bitcoin. I exchange for Bitcoin. Because people will say, look, Europe is having trouble. The euro's currency is devaluing relative to the dollar. People understand that when you go to Italy right now, you get more pasta for your dollar, more pizza, more fine Italian wine. You know? So why can't people understand? Like, so I meet them where they're at, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not buying Bitcoin as an investment that I'm planning to sell later for a profit. That's a stock. It doesn't pay a dividend. Like, no, I'm exchanging one shitty currency for a much better currency because I want to be able to buy things in the future. And unfortunately, I just like can't spend money. I just have this like, I just am bad at spending money. Like,
I mean, that's a great problem to have. I mean, no, except for like
it's
getting
not.
a little
any girl I've ever dated. It's terrible.
There we go. But
I'm like, but our future children are going to have so much, and they're like, you're not going to have any children.
The future girls, though, man, they're going to love it. But like, I guess what I'm getting at is like there are inherent flaws that we have to deal with in Bitcoin. I mean, like.
We were talking about how to move Bitcoin. It's like moving Bitcoin is complicated. You asked me like, well, how do you do it privately without telling the whole world, right? Like,
but just like on its base layer of like using Bitcoin as my money is like, I got on zero basically for the last 2 years because I found Bitcoin and I was like, holy shit, I got to do everything. That's what I was getting at with bad financial advice is like, I'd made bad decisions for myself as far as like going too far into a currency that is very volatile.
Wait, you only went in 100%?
Oh, I mean, come on,
bro.
No,
if you're not over 100% long, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean,
if you didn't take out loans,
what am I doing? Is my answer to that.
Well, you got a business, right? So you've got business loans.
Yeah. So it's hard to say like what 100% is when most of my net worth is in wine in a cellar.
That's a store value.
That is a great store value.
It does technically store pretty well.
Yeah, right? I mean, like as long as I keep making good wine, it's a great store value.
How long does a bottle last, like shelf life wise?
Well, so my dad started making wine in 2006, and we cracked open the last of his bottle, last of the 2006, the first vintage this year at the end of harvest, and it was awesome. Like. It's so fun opening up those old bottles. So that's what, 16 years old?
Years, yeah. Pretty good store value, older than Bitcoin.
Older than Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It holds its value better than the dollar, I'm sure, right?
Definitely.
I mean, the older wine bottles get usually, right?
Yeah, I mean, like there's storage. Like you got to be good with storage. A lot of people that buy my wine that are Bitcoiners, they're into the idea of let me hold this thing and increase in value, right? But just like with Bitcoin, like you got to hold it in a good way. You got to hold it outside of light, outside of changing temperature in a relatively cool environment. Cold storage is just the term I use for Bitcoiners because they get that stuff, put it away.
Storage. That's why people store it in a cellar, right? Because
exactly.
No light, temperature stays about the same all year round.
Ground temperature's nice.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, like, a bottle of wine keeps its value, but at the same time, you can screw it up. And there's some wines that are just better drunk in the short term. So it's definitely a play of how you want to enjoy things.
Is that like depending upon the grape or the more of the process?
It's the style, the grape, different things are going in different directions. So let's say a rosé, for example. Rosés are like really bright and fruity. That fruitiness usually dissipates with age.
Over time. Yeah.
So you want that bright, fruity rosé. If you want that experience early, you could age a rosé and maybe you like it in 15 years when it's a little bit more dull, but like that's usually just not the style.
But like a Cab Sauvignon or something like that, or a Malbec.
Yeah, something like a little bit more smooth, a little bit more earthy. Like it changes. The thing is, it's like not the same bottle of wine if you were to teleport. It's a totally different experience.
What about like we don't get into like the science too much, but like what goes on like in that time that changes it?
So there's a little bit of airplay through the cork.
Okay.
Just a tiny bit.
They're not fully.
I mean, they're
sealed
for
then.
all intents and purposes they are, but there is a tiny bit of airplay through the cork, and just that little bit of air in the bottle is there,
enough to not contaminate it, but
yeah, it's not going to destroy the wine. Like there's a reason there's that air there. That said, like honestly, I don't know. I don't totally know what goes on in a wine bottle that changes it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Leave a comment below if you do. Turn it into content.
There we
See
go.
what we did there. Well, what about do you know if like soil, because like obviously there's a lot of Bitcoiners that are like, you know, it's all about the soil. Actually, in fact, like Colin, who was the last guest on the show, like, you know, he does some stuff with regenerative farming, or has in the past, and has talked about that. And my parents are, you know, cattle farmers, so I'm interested. Like, you hear all this stuff about like shaking your rancher's hand and going back to the roots of farming and all the shortcuts that people take in your, you know, modern day, you know, mass production of farming, which I would consider grapes, wine production a part of farming, right? So a couple questions around soil. Does that affect the flavor of the grapes? And how do you know you have good or not good soil? And do you do anything, like, basically tell me some stuff about soil that I would like to learn?
Totally. Soil is going to have a huge effect on what grapes or what the wine tastes like that you can produce from a given area. Like, I've had same variety, same winemaker, soil was different within a football field distance, and the wines were completely different.
Really?
Yeah. Like everything's the same except for the soil. The soil has a huge difference in the way things are. Yeah.
Okay. That is a lot more than I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, like everything that a grape is it's sunlight, it's water, it's soil.
So it's like, it's its food, basically.
Yeah.
It's a third of its food.
Yeah. I mean, like the sunlight changes everywhere, but you know, generally it's more or less the same. The intensity of it does matter, and it is important. But the soil is and the water plays into that. If it's groundwater, especially, is like where all the cool minerals come from that make the grape. And so that's something I'm very cognizant of and want to continue to like build great soil where I am. I'm on a river terrace, so my soil is more alluvial. It's like, I mean, it's river bottom, what it was. And so that compared to clay or limestone.
That's good, right?
Well,
That's
it's
much
different.
Preferred.
It's just different.
Okay.
And so like where I am is like, I can dig down 2 feet and I don't hit a rock. Like it's amazing soil for growing anything.
Right.
What it does for wine specifically is it's going to make a little bit more of a light bodied wine. If you grow in clay soils, it's a powerful wine. If you grow in like pink granite based soils, I mean, obviously it's soil, it's not the rock, but that's where the soil is coming from.
Right.
It's like a little bit more flowery and fruity. I love wine from pink granite soils. And so I studied geology in college, so I do nerd out on this a little bit.
That's where I was going next. Like, how the heck do you know all this stuff, dude?
But I mean, it's also just like, it is such an important thing that when you're learning about wine, one of the first questions you ask is what soil is this grown in? And so like the climate matters and everything, but it's all connected and the soil is a big part of it. So to really have that full expression, I do dry farming. So I don't really irrigate the soil. I don't really irrigate the vineyard. And that works with grapes because they send their roots super far down. And so when you send your roots super far down, you're constantly finding new nutrients. If you were to do drip irrigation or constantly irrigate and flood, like those roots have no incentive to go super far down in search of water.
So that's something you're like forcing the plants to do through
forced hardship. So like, I'm not like all.
That's what the Fed's doing to us, by the way.
Then they give us like, if we're about to starve and there's like a a big crisis, like I will water my vines a little bit, you
just
know,
a little stimmy.
Yeah, just get it going a little bit.
Check.
But it doesn't totally disrupt
Not
the whole
a full
system.
1,200, just a 600.
No, I'll just buy you gas next time or something. You know,
they're going to issue you a gas card that you'll only be able to spend at approved times a day.
Yeah, they're not going to like
approved state approved vendors.
They're not going to like me driving a truck around. I tell you that.
Oh no! Well, California passed the thing yesterday about like banning. Like no more non-electric cars by 2035.
By 2035, damn.
A decade to shoot themselves in the foot. So okay, well, so you said that it is you can drill further down and you train or kind of expose these roots so that they grow different or to more difficult or hardship conditions, which affects the strength of the plant, like does it make it live long, like
so
more resilient?
Grapevines live a long time.
Yeah.
What a lot of times what you see above ground is not necessarily like you heard it through the grapevine.
Thank you. Okay. All right. This show is so bad. Subscribe if you're still listening.
So a lot of good puns on, a lot of great puns on there.
Great pun. That's a great pun there, bro.
But like what's above ground is not old. Like especially with Pinot Noir, which is what I grow, is something that, and I'm at like the edge of, I'm growing in the highest grape growing region in North America. So like we're on the edge of
elevation
growing grapes. Yeah. Climate, elevation, all that stuff. And Pinot Noir is kind of notoriously a difficult grape to grow. A lot of the above ground vine dies off relatively frequently. So you're constantly training up new vines. And a new vine needs, at least a year to get up there and then a year to produce. But like you're constantly doing that. So it's not a huge deal. It's just every once in a while, like in 2021, there was a huge frost and every grapevine in Colorado got killed to the ground. So the roots still lived. It sent up shoots the next year, but there was no grapes in Colorado in 2021. So
you didn't have a production that year?
So I had to buy grapes from California that year.
Oh.
Not what I want to be doing. I want to be producing Colorado wine, right? But like, how do I start a business with no product? How do I go a year with no product? You know? And that's farming. I mean, it's just like there's shit happens and you got to deal with it. I was still able to like produce. I want to produce Colorado wine, but like the biggest thing is I want to produce natural wine. And so what I was able to do is there was still some grapes in the vineyard. Like I was able to get some. And what I could do is I can do a natural fermentation still, which is my biggest thing, is like I just literally pick the grapes from my vineyard, crush them, and they start fermenting with the wild yeast and bacteria that lives in my vineyard.
Right.
And so that creates different flavors in the wine as well. It creates more unique, kind of a lot more going on.
It's like sourdough. Like sourdough's the same process.
Yeah. And so I was able to still pick enough grapes to get that fermentation going, to propagate that fermentation into the California grapes. So like when I see when I'm doing like my natural fermentation, what I'm feeling like is I'm imparting my land and my land's flavors and essence into any other grapes that
it's because of the wild yeast that are there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause I made sourdough here and then I made it like back when I lived across the country and it's different. It was different.
Different yeast, different strain and everything, or did you keep that starter going?
Different starter.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I made the starter with a wild yeast in Colorado instead of a wild yeast in wherever I was. And the bread tasted different because the wild yeast is different.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I'm not as familiar with sourdough, but like it's the same idea.
Same concept. It's like the wild yeast is just like naturally everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's different strains of it.
The thing with wine is like what makes farming and being hands off and not spraying pesticides and herbicides in your vineyard is if you do that, you're going to upset the natural microbiome that lives there. And most yeast strains create vinegar. Like they still ferment, but you're not getting that alcohol. You're not getting like a fresh flavor and everything. And that's why most wines are made with yeast that you buy from a lab. Like what you're getting. You're not risking anything.
So given that, why is there a premium to selling it? Is there a marketing advantage to selling it? Because it sounds like it makes your planning, like operation, more difficult, more challenging.
I mean, definitely. But it's also like, I mean, it's my secret sauce to a degree. Like there's definitely a big natural wine movement, I would say. But like what I'm doing is like, I'm trying to make Peony wine special, and I'm trying to impart the beauty of where I live in every bottle, right? Trying to capture that. And it's like in its own way, but like without that wild fermentation, it's just, to me, it's just like any other wine, you know, it's like, it's not from here as much.
And you're from Colorado?
Yeah. I grew up
in Peony?
Yeah.
What, for those who are not familiar with Peony, give us an idea of like what it's like there. What was it like growing up in small town, rural, Western Colorado?
So I was born in Austin, Texas, lived there till I was 8. And then it was my dad's dream to buy a farm and live off the land. So when I was 8, we moved to Peony. Quite the shift.
Yeah.
It's a town of 2,000. And at that time, there was always this like really intense, like super hardcore hippie and super hardcore coal miner or rancher vibe, and the like butted heads completely.
Oh yeah.
And so
that's kind of just Colorado.
A lot of ways. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like oil, gas, all that stuff, like it's all in the same boat.
Right.
But on both sides, what they shared is like serious love for and like respect for hard work. Cause all the hippies very much wanted to live off the land and grow their own food and stuff, but like, it's just a different culture. So I guess I was kind of caught in the middle because my parents were trying to live off the land and be somewhat hippies and stuff. And, but I'm also playing like basketball and football and soccer and everything with everyone else. And the high school was all, for the most part, like coal miners kids and stuff. And so, I grew up with I had a graduating class of 39 and went to school with probably 25 of them since second grade.
Wow.
So that's crazy. One small town. It's not like it was just.
You still keep in touch with any of your.
Yeah, for sure. I've got
classmates.
Yeah, probably. I mean, with that, you have friends from all the different classes, but I mean, I've probably got like 10 people that I keep up with very frequently. You just, you grow up with them, their family, like,
right.
You know everything.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm from New Orleans, much bigger, but similar vibe.
Yeah. I mean, I see that. I've met a lot of people from New Orleans, and I feel like the familial, just like community vibe is so strong there.
It's like, oh, your mom and them. Oh, I know your mom and them. Don't you talk about my mama like that, boy. That's a saying in Louisiana. Your mom and them. How's your mom and them doing?
Really?
It's like your mom and a greater extended family.
Right on. Yeah.
And them.
And I mean, it's cool that like you can just assume like, that greater extended family is around. Like that's something that I kind of am realizing is really cool. But like in hindsight, I'm like, oh, cool. Your family never left. When I was growing up, I was like, oh, cool. Your family never left this town. And now I'm like, I moved back and like, I want to have a family there. Like I get it.
Right. Well, I mean, dude, having property in Colorado today, especially rural Colorado, I would hold on to that.
With water is the big thing.
With water. Mm-hmm. You have water rights?
Yes.
How do you get, is that something that your dad negotiated for when he first bought the land, or how do you get
Essentially,
that?
It comes with the land. So like initially like the ditch is dug and it services these people and their land, and all that stuff is already pretty much divided up. And then if you buy land and want some of that ditch, you can buy on into it and take whatever's left. But you have if you're later to it, you get less water, or you're last in line, right? So where we are is one of the first ditches dug in the area on the valley floor, and we are the last users of we're the end of the ditch. It goes into the river on our property. So basically all the water that's there for all intents and purposes, is ours to use.
Which helps.
Yeah. I mean, we have a specific amount that we're allowed to use, but like if we don't use it all by any means, and whatever we need is there.
Is that something that's like takes, like, cause that's something you could get today, or just being that your dad got this property? So
it's property based. I mean,
right,
you can buy.
Could you find property with like water rights like that today, or is it all pretty much taken?
Well, as water gets more and more scarce, it gets more and more expensive.
Right.
I mean, where we are specifically is like at the top of the watershed, which is really nice. But one of the biggest sources is the Peony Reservoir is a dam that was built on Muddy Creek And if you can imagine Muddy Creek flowing into a dam for 60 years, it's starting to fill up. So every year, not just from worsening drought, and I mean, like we've experienced so much drought over the last 20 years. It's really just normalizing and desertification at this point. But like that reservoir also, when it's full, just holds less water.
So it sounds like it might be you all are exceptionally fortunate then, given like the soil makeup that you have, that this is like a type of soil that retains water really well, and it's not like the clay or rock that
it's land that's been farmed organically for the last like 100 years. I mean, not only did it start out as good soil, but it's been farmed well. It's been farmed regeneratively for the last 100 years. And so it's just, I mean, we're in such a amazingly beautiful spot. My farm is surrounded by other organic farms. Like one of my best friends his family's farm is like right next to me. And
what do they grow?
They grow all kinds of different fruits. So peaches, cherries, plums, apples, pears, everything. Yeah. He's the guy that got me into Bitcoin, so it's really nice to be next to him.
Give him a shout out. What's his farm?
He doesn't really like to do, doesn't want to do.
Well, you could have gave his farm a shout out without mentioning Bitcoin. Now it's too late. I guess I could edit it, but
no, you're good.
So I mean, well, it sounds like there's a lot of Bitcoiners out there, like in that rural Colorado area. Like, do you find the people? Because earlier you were saying that like people know you as like the Bitcoin guy, like sure on Twitter, but like,
well, my friends, just because I couldn't shut up about it for 2 years.
Right. Well, yeah, same.
I mean, we all went through that,
but
right?
I've seen pictures of you like selling at the farmers markets, and you have the a Bitcoin accepted here and stuff. So like, for those Peony and rural Colorado residents, like, how have those conversations going? Like, what do you hear, especially now, more recently?
Yeah. So my neighbor, when I moved back to Peony, I built a house, and I live in part of the house, and we rented out. And the woman, one of the people who lives downstairs, was just talking to me, and the Canadian trucker protest came up, and not her sister or something is a nurse in Canada, and she couldn't leave because she was unvaccinated and had no choice. And so like this came up naturally, and I was like, yeah. Brought up Bitcoin, and that was like one of our first conversations, and she's like, I think we're going to get along. And that was really nice. Like there's a lot of self-sovereignty in the area. Like everyone wants to put in the work.
Well,
and
if you're living off the land, like growing your own vegetables and fruit like that, growing your own wine, raising your own cattle, like those seem like the types of virtuous, moral type people that we were referring to earlier, like the proof of work type people that would naturally be more inclined to
totally
understand Bitcoin.
Yeah. But I mean, no one wants to it'll get there eventually, and like they're predisposed to maybe take that radical responsibility. But like, there's also I don't know anything about money, or I'm poor and I'm just mad at the system for my way of life not working, or, and there's just a level of education, and I really want to be a part of that. I mean, I love talking with people and helping people understand these things, and I'm not like a technical Bitcoiner. I'm asking you all these questions about how things work, but like I understand generally how it works, and just how to get to a base level of understanding and take responsibility for your financial freedom.
Yeah, personal responsibility, that's like a new thing that people are going to have to get used to. But I agree, it's like so critical, dude. But it's not like a straight line. Like you got to start out small, baby steps, Like most people don't even hold cash. Most businesses don't even accept cash anymore. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like
you don't. You probably don't even accept cash.
No, I accept cash.
You only accept Bitcoin.
I accept cash, but like I get it. If as far as like from a we as a lot of Bitcoiners like look at it like, oh, you don't accept cash, like fuck you, you're against privacy. But it's like, yo, I'm trying to like facilitate sales for all these different people, and it's a lot easier for me to just swipe a credit card. Like I make more money if I can just not have to deal with giving you change and everything. I do.
Also, I get rewards points if I pay with the credit card.
Totally.
So until the incentives are as such, why wouldn't I pay with a credit card? Yeah. It can be reversed.
If you want the privacy, go for it on cash. And I like part of it's like the reason I started accepting Bitcoin for sales is I wanted to be out there and be like just
we should accept it.
It will be a node in the world of like being like. And what was funny is this is kind of what I expected, but like I didn't expect anyone to come up to me and want to buy with Bitcoin. started getting all these, like, girls would walk by and they'd point and be like, whoa, look, Bitcoin, we should tell your brother. They accept Bitcoin there.
Yeah, tell your brother, because your brother's an idiot and got scammed.
So
seriously,
that's the way.
Tell him.
That's the way it started out. And like with the cash thing is like, I don't ever want to stop accepting cash just because it's kind of a statement. Like, I want to be there if someone does want that personal privacy.
Yeah, you should accept. You should offer cash,
definitely. And like, I'm gonna offer everything.
It's the only way to pay that like doesn't have your IP or like.
Yeah,
dude, it's like crazy how I went to go make a virtual machine today. I think this mic cable is on its last leg. I went to go create a virtual machine to like revamp the podcast website, and they ask you for your full name, your home address, your billing info, your credit card number. And I tried just putting like BTC BAP instead of like my full name, and I tried putting my business address instead of my home address where I live. And it was like, nope, really? We can't do it. And it was like, we know. And it literally said, it was like, reasons you have been denied could be one of the following. And it was like trying to, or unintentionally masking your identity or location. And I was like, oh my God, privacy's gone, dude.
It's gone, man. I mean, and if you're not, like, I know that.
It wasn't even like I have all of these places registered.
Yeah.
Like the business is a registered business in Colorado. Like the credit card is a registered credit card under the business. They were just like, no, we know what you're trying to do, and we want to know who you are.
And it kind of turns it like, I know it's not completely zero sum. You got to go all in to have any privacy, but at the same time,
I think it is. I think you pretty much have to go all in.
Yeah,
if you don't, you might as well. Like, what's the point?
You can get rid of the low hanging fruit at least.
Yeah. You can make it a little difficult, dude. If you either like. You're keeping the good people honest is like what you're doing. Like if you don't go all in, like if you're just doing a little bit low hanging fruit, like you're just keeping like
anyone who wants to can find your stuff. And so to someone who's not technical, to someone who's building a business to like literally not have to work on a computer, which is what I just do not want to spend time on a computer for work. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I just kind of give up to it. And I mean, you have relatively good, decent privacy, like, I mean, good passwords and like everything like that. But as far as like your information going out there, like it's out there, man. And also with like selling my wine, so much of wine sales is you have age verification you've got to go through and stuff too. Yeah. So I mean, that honestly is like not as big as I'm thinking it is. No, it's honestly like it. I think that maybe when you do swipe your credit card, they like know who you are. Or you have to sign the box to receive it. But like as far as ordering on my website, you click like, yes, I am over 21 years 21. Old. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. But then you got to sign for it. When you receive it. Yeah. Yeah. But some places they don't even really do that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, okay. So we were talking about the people who come up, my brother is into this, right? Like, well, I mean, what? That's not great. Well, that's where it started. So that's like, beginning of the year, June 2021, or June 2022. Sorry. We're in 23 now. Yes, tripped me out. But that was like my first year of wine sales coincided with like my first full year of understanding Bitcoin, 2021, and growth within that. You know, I had no idea what a lightning. That's when I bought. That's when I bought Bitcoin to send to XRP. To be able to ride that shit all the way down because I couldn't buy. Bro, you didn't have to say that on recording. I wasn't going to recap it. I'm not afraid of it. Like I fucked up, you know? Man got XRP. Hey, we all did. Yeah. I mean, I actually made money on XRP. And I reported the gains on my taxes. Damn. You are a saint and a scholar. The government would say, Zach, why are you in Bitcoin again? Because like based on your tax returns, you've made more money on every other crypto than you've ever. Like Bitcoin doesn't seem like it's your thing, bro. You might want to reconsider something else. Because like try our product, the dollar. The dollar, right? I hear it's got a great interest rate, gives you a yield, risk-free yield. Yes, no risk. And if they steal your money, they can just print more and bail you out. So honestly, it's $1 a dollar. Dude, you might be onto something. But like the first year of wine sales, I didn't, no one came up. I didn't have a sign. No one came up to me
The Bitcoin sign.
Yeah, I didn't have a Bitcoin sign. No one came up to me asking or anything. The next year, I'm more into it. I got on Bitcoin Twitter and realized how many Bitcoiners there are.
When did you join Bitcoin Twitter? This year or a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, 22? Probably within like the last year or so.
Damn, dude, you got that many followers? You skyrocketed past me.
People like farming content, I guess.
I think, yeah. Anyway,
so anyways, like I'm put that sign up, and all I'm getting initially is like all people walking by, and there's always been a lot of that continuously. But then like I don't know, the first person walked up and was like, "You're a Bitcoiner? You accept Bitcoin?" And I was just like immediately like kind of taken out of sales mode and be like, "Oh my God, this is awesome." Like the first person. And one of my favorite stories is this woman comes up and she's like, "Chase saw my wine, likes it, and is like, you accept Bitcoin?" I was like, yeah, of course. And she's like, "I got to go get my husband."
So it's still the husband. It's his husband or brother.
But she's like, he needs to talk to you.
Yeah.
And the way I heard that was like, he talks to me about Bitcoin all the time.
Every time, right? All
he needs
day
someone
long.
to talk to.
Yeah.
And so he came up and like, he bought some wine, and we chatted for a little bit. And then the next time he was around, he bought some more wine, and then we went and got a beer. And like, brilliant guy, been in Bitcoin for a long time, but like just never really, he's big on privacy, and he doesn't want to like go out and go to meetups all that much or like interact too much on Twitter or anything. So he just doesn't have that many Bitcoiners to be around. And
doesn't
I was
have
like,
an outlet to go to. Yeah.
But this guy was like, "Wow, you are incredibly smart and amazing to talk to." And it's just this is like early on. I hadn't met many Bitcoiners. Like, this is awesome. I want to meet more people like you. And so he and I stay in touch, and that's been fun. But that was like the intro of like, cool. I had that, went to Bitcoin Miami, and then the Beef Initiative had a conference out at my place, basically in my town.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to go to that, man.
It was, they let me be a part of it. I gave a tour of my vineyard to like some amazing people.
What was at Jason's.
Yeah. So Jason hosted it. And there was one afternoon where Jason did a tour, and I did a tour of my place, and then you could go out and shoot prairie dogs. And I had some awesome people come to my place, like literally at my house drinking wine, a bunch of Bitcoiners. Like, I was in heaven, and the energy of the people at that conference was just like so exciting and just like visceral that I was like, one, these people are doing things right. What are they doing? Eating a lot more meat, apparently.
Yeah, that's a key.
And then also just like, wow, okay, cool. So Bitcoin Miami was cool. Bitcoiners are awesome, but these people that like also have this additional thing that I'm into, regenerative agriculture, farming, just being your best self, is like, I need to dive into this. So ever since then, like, that's when I really took posting on Twitter more seriously, as far as like actually sharing what I'm doing, because I found it's a way to just meet people, to meet other Bitcoiners. And that's the best basket of people that I've found to meet.
Dude, it's great for marketing. Like, you've done a good job of like bringing up your brand that you've, that's the thing, like, once you do it, like, you built the brand. Like, yeah, it's your brand. You control the name, the brand, everything. Mm-hmm. Like, right? You own the business wholly, or does your dad's part of it?
No, it's me.
Sorry, Dad. Only one of us can go towards riches.
No, he has his life, man. He's 75. He's living a good life. Old. Like, he's not in a position where he'd want to run a business. And I like doing things myself. So.
It was you said it was his idea to become a farmer. What did he farm? So when you guys first got it? So
he initially bought 65 acres of apples and pears, organic.
Like your neighbors were doing. Okay.
Yeah. And so there's other farms around, but then farmed that for a year, packing all the fruit himself, selling it. Second year, sold all the fruit wholesale. Third year, after losing a bunch of money the first 2 years, realized that was definitely not the place. So then sold off / rented some of it to another family farmers, and cut down a bunch of trees to try different things. And so one of the things he tried was he got talked into planting Pinot Noir grapes in 2004, and was initially just going to sell the grapes to a friend of his that's a winemaker in the area. And then his friend, after we got our first crop, was like, "No, I want the grapevines to mature for one more year. I'll buy them next year, but I'll show you how to make wine." And so my dad made wine and was like, "That's like 5% of the work. And now I have wine. Like, I'm just going to keep making wine." he had no idea what he was doing, just like learning how to do it on the fly, and just kept doing it every year. And eventually there was like a couple big crops, and it's illegal to have above a certain amount of wine without a liquor license, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can have, it's like it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's enough for a home winemaker. But like once you want to give it above a certain amount, you do have to have a liquor license. And so then he got a liquor license, and with that much wine, you're like, well, I have to sell it because I'm not just going to sit on
all this wine.
So he started selling it, and it was like the it wine in the valley as far as things go. He was selling it to restaurants in Aspen, and like mostly my sister's selling it for him, but like people loved it. And he did that for a couple of years, and then he had a bunch of wine go bad, and was like, well, whatever, I'll just make enough for me and I'll sell the rest of the grapes. Like, it'll be fine. And so at that point, I was just like looking for direction, honestly. And I'd realized that I like entrepreneurship. I like starting a business, and I was living in Denver, and I was not that psyched on things. And there was no path in geology. Like, there was no career path I wanted to hit. So I was just kind of on the phone with him, and he brought up some numbers on wine, and I was like, that makes sense. I could do that.
And so you like didn't really, you weren't like a wine guy.
I didn't know anything about wine.
Did you like drinking it at least?
I was kind of getting into whiskey.
So no.
I mean, like, it's
whiskey
fine, it was
and wine
good, but like, no,
different.
I mean, my memory of like growing up on the vineyard was being forced to work all summer.
So yeah, you hated it.
Yeah, totally. But it was like, I knew deep down that it was like, this is a better life. Let me go live on the farm and build a business. And initially I thought maybe I'll move back to Denver. Now that I'm there, there's no way. But I literally just made wine without any idea of how to do it, and then had to do it again for another year and wait 2 years before I knew whether my wine was good. Like, the free market said my wine was good.
Where do you get the confidence to like take a chance on yourself like that? A little bit of insanity.
I mean, it's definitely like looking back, I'm like, wow, that was crazy. But also, like,
Bitcoin.
What else was I going to do?
In on Bitcoin's probably similarly crazy.
Yeah, I mean, both relatively thought out as far as like, okay, cool. So I want to have a business. This opportunity is there because my dad has, like, I need to scale up everything he has, but he has everything to get me going.
So it was easier it wasn't like you were starting from scratch.
No, the infrastructure was there. I had a wine cellar. I had some barrels. I had some like stuff to manufacture. I've had to scale everything up, rebuild my wine cellar, all that stuff.
Right.
But
I
like,
saw one of your racks broke.
Yeah. I mean, that's
like
just
hard to pick up.
Continuous process. A forklift.
A forklift?
Yeah, you're not picking up a barrel. That is like 500 to 800 pounds.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. I just got to eat more meat is what you're saying.
Have you not been lifting and building through the bear market? As they say, you got to build those iron hands.
Stronger than ever.
Diamond hands. Is that what it is?
Diamond hands.
Diamond hands.
Yeah.
Those might, if diamonds are the sharpest object, they might pierce your.
Well, it's the hardest object.
The hardest object.
Yeah.
It might break your barrel.
Yeah. I mean, there's no diamonds in my wine room. One day, maybe. But like,
why diamonds when you can have Bitcoin
or wine? Yeah. Only liquid assets for me.
Haha, liquid assets. Let's go. That was good. Wine's not that liquid though.
No, I mean,
if you wanted to sell your vineyard and like all your product, like you'd probably take a pretty big haircut if you just wanted to like dump it all at once.
Wholesale, yeah, for sure. I mean, I do all direct to consumer just because like
that's because you get the best.
I get the best rate. It takes more work in my way, but it's just like, to me, I'm like, well, I don't know how big I want to get, and I don't want to grow too fast. This is the first like real successful business I've ever run. I'm still learning how to do it, and so I don't want to grow too fast because if I need to create more wine, I have to wait 2 years for that to be ready. I have to expand now, and I can't realize any profits for.
That is interesting.
Start realizing profits for 2 years, and it's going to take a year to realize those.
That's a hard business because you've got to plan it out ahead of time. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of like, I guess starting it was like, well, I want to start a business, and the best way to learn how to start a business is to do it. Yep. And I'll figure it out. And if it doesn't work, like I'll start something. I believe in myself. You know, this is probably going to fail, but I'll figure it out.
American Hodl said, you know, it starts with believing. You know what I did before I bought Bitcoin? I believed in myself. Start there.
Yes. I mean, you got to trust your, like,
It's true.
There's a lot of like, oh, cool. So you're like trusting you're just investing in this thing.
Right.
And it's like, no, I know what I'm buying.
Well, it's not an investment. First of all, it's savings.
Yeah, that's the outside perspective. But like, I know what I'm buying. I know what money I'm saving in, and I know the risk reward on that. Like, it's an informed choice I'm making, and the other informed choice is like, cool. So I'll hold this melting ice cube, or I'll invest in a bunch of stuff that I have no idea what it is.
How much of our age group do you think is starting to get that? And do you think that like it's getting better? Like more people are starting to realize it?
I've been impressed with over the last like 2 years how much more receptive people are. Even
because we're like getting to that age, dude, where I'm like, my cable. I might have to unplug this. We're getting to that age where like people are starting to think like, okay, what did I do with my life? Like if I were to die tomorrow, like what would my legacy be? Yeah. Have I found fulfillment? Like, am I hitting my goals that I thought I would hit, milestones, or so? Totally. It's like 30. It's like, did I have started a business yet? Like, have I independent?
Yeah, most of my friends are hitting the point where it's like, okay, cool, you're doing what you're going to be doing.
Right. And it's like, if I haven't, why not?
Yeah.
And then I'm asking myself, why not? Okay, what went wrong? Oh, I assume a few of them. Maybe something like, didn't get to that point. Maybe they're like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. It's the system is rigged against me.
But that's why they're not doing it.
Compared to my peers,
because they're blaming someone else. They're blaming someone else on that. And like it comes down to like, okay, I'm 28. Most of my friends the same age. Like, if you're not taking responsibility for yourself at this point, like no one is.
You're not gonna.
Yeah.
You're probably not gonna.
Maybe you're not gonna. Yeah. I mean, some people figure it out like in this range, like, to mid 30s. But I think that as more people that I'm close to figure out that what they build is what they get, the further they get away from maybe mom and dad helping them out, the more receptive they are to what I'm talking about, which, I mean, there's
no shortcuts, dude.
No. And as we understand Bitcoin, like we find different ways to explain it and everything. And a lot of what I get at is just like, hey, this is the situation. And this is like one responsible option that you need to learn about, and work your ass off and you'll probably figure it out.
Well, I think like where I start a lot is like explaining to our age group, because like I'm 30, right? But like our age group is like, well, I don't have kids yet. I don't own a house yet. I don't know. You tell me. Why don't you own a house yet? Why? And I think you're telling me you've saved every year and you feel like you haven't gotten ahead, and you're telling me that your college debt is still holding you back, and you're telling me that like minimum wage without college debt 89-90% of what your salary is today, and so like this was all a waste, and like telling me that every time you get like a raise, like inflation eats up the rest of it, and like the differences in taxes also eat up the rest of that.
It's facing the realities. And I think a lot of like when we were maybe just getting out of college, 25, something like before we'd really like, rubber hit the road, there's a lot of like, oh man, back like in our parents' days, man, they were getting married and having kids already. Right. Like
we didn't realize, we thought like, at least I'll speak for myself here, but like I thought it was something that I did wrong. And then in my late 20s, I think it was in 2020, I was like, no. I've done everything exactly how I'm supposed to. I got screwed. It's the money. Because I worked in finance, and I was like, I'm literally supposed to be like,
you're making it.
I'm supposed to be the guy. Like everybody would be like, damn, dude, you must be crushing it. I'm like, no, I'm not actually. Wait, am I supposed to be?
Yeah, we took very different paths to get to this point, because like that's
why it's so interesting to talk.
In 2019, I was very much like starting over on everything. I mean, I was going a completely different path and going on complete total debt mode, working 2 jobs, starting a business, just everything I can do. But like, I guess I was thinking like when I felt like people my age were like looking, or in my like growing up, like my age along the ride, were like, man, those old generations that like bought a house, had kids, got married and stuff, like, man, you didn't even like, where was the fun? You didn't even get to have any fun. It's like,
Interesting.
Shoot, that's
I thought that too.
That's kind of what, yeah. But now I'm like, man, maybe they had
That's
it
what I
right.
want.
You know,
Maybe
that's what I want.
Isn't that funny? I completely agree, man. It's like I grew up in the city, in inner city New Orleans. Like, I mean, inner city, where like you don't go outside at night, especially now. But like back then, it was pretty bad too. I've grown over time. Like, it's the distaste for city life, and like, but I wanted all the I remember being like a kid, you know, I'm like, oh, I want the fancy suit. I want like the hot wife, like the fancy car, the big house. I don't want any of that stuff now, dude. I want to be as low profile as possible. Like the only way I want people to know about me is because they listen to Value Stack podcasts. That's it. And like, it's amazing how I think our age group kind of like saw what was changing and sort of got in the middle of it. And we're like, well, what do we do? Like, I guess kind of like you're learning as you go. I mean, I think every generation goes through that, but I find that like what I thought were going to be my adulthood ideals are so drastically different from what they actually are today. And I do think a big part of that, as we were talking about earlier, is Bitcoin. Like, it kind of changes you in a way. And that's why I asked about like our peers and like what you think, like if they're starting to get it, because I do think, and maybe this is just my worldview and just mine, but I think that Bitcoin is, for me, it was key to understanding the bigger picture of what's going on with society.
You need a grounding thing, and Bitcoin becomes that. It was the same for me. It's that grounding thing where I was able to be like, okay, cool, there's this. What's all that other stuff?
Right. Like when I like, Bitcoin helped me see the light in the vaccine stuff. And like, it helped me see the light in food, and it helped me see the light in Western medicine, and it helped me see the light in, I won't even call it medicine. I really call it drugs. Like, and it's really changed me dramatically, dude. Like, to where I like want more holistic things. I'm skeptical of like shortcuts and technology, which ironically, Bitcoin is a technology, right? It's a tool, a technology, but I've found that
it's pretty foundational technology if you're looking at money as like I look at money as the foundational technology of society. It's what allows us to have this complex society. And if like, so yeah, Bitcoin is a pretty fundamental thing.
That.
Yeah.
It's rewired people. Like, broken money will break people, and good money will create virtuous people and a more virtuous society, I think. And so I've seen our kind of generation go through, because I mean, in the 90s, like when we were born, like money wasn't like dead broken yet.
No.
I mean, like, it was fiat. There was no backing.
We knew where it was going.
But we hadn't hit, right. Like, we hadn't hit we were in the third turning, is what they say. Yeah.
Absolutely revolutionized the way I see the world as well.
Same. We were in the third turning at that time, right? And now we're in the fourth turning, like dead smack in the center of it, like in the heat of the fourth turning. We were in the third turning, so like we had some time. But then the fourth turning, which has been our life, basically our adult life, like teenage and adult life so far, has been just like, things are not like they used to be. You know?
and I think back to your original question, like, people are starting to see that. And yes, I've been so impressed by the change just in the last, I mean, like, I've seen it in myself, and like learning about Bitcoin and all, like growing my business and just becoming an older, wiser version of myself. Like, you notice it in yourself the most, but, I've just like these little comments from people that I'm close to that I'm like, damn, you would not have said that a couple of years ago. Like, that's cool.
Do you remember any like offhand? Just like
I think I'm just coming.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, I don't have anything specific, but like, there's just, I think that the opening thing that I think I see the most and the most common from people is just like understanding that like everything about the vaccine was, I mean, maybe not everything, like whatever, but like, it's just like understanding that generally that whole thing was just like so wrong.
Yeah.
And that's become a window for a lot of people, where then we can be like, oh, cool. So we got that little crack. Let's like touch back on these other tiny little things. And with high CPI, also it's like I had a friend that, really good friend of mine from college that I just riding in a car with him, can't shut up about Bitcoin. And, he eventually buys some and, comes back to me a few months later. And he's like, that whole inflation thing you were talking about happened. And there's just all these like more things that we keep talking about are happening. But the
whole Bitcoin being a hedge to it didn't, right?
No. I mean,
at all.
Because then you have to go in and define what is inflation. And now everyone thinks it's prices, but prices come so much after monetary inflation.
Prices are sticky.
Yeah.
People forget that. But yeah, in the short term, prices are going up and you having less money. So like, take that. Isn't Bitcoin great?
Yeah, man. Bitcoin worked. Yeah, no,
it worked all right.
Like we were talking about before.
Maybe extra poor.
You're like, oh, cool. I convinced all of my friends to buy Bitcoin at the top, and now they're not going to buy Bitcoin again for a while.
That's what literally happens.
That's what happens.
So many of my friends bought at the top, much because I told them to.
Yeah, I bought at the top.
I bought at the top.
Yeah.
Also bought well before I told them to.
Of course.
I've been telling them to buy for a while, but
yeah,
they didn't actually.
You listen when it's like,
oh, he's not crazy. He's rich now, so he must be right. Which is like, no. And now I'm like calling them like, hey, remember
this is Bitcoin. The time.
This is the time to buy. And they're like, how dare you call me?
I just lost $100.
Yeah. And I'm like, in the last 10 seconds or what?
Yeah. Like, but you touched on a point that I am like currently wanting to focus on more and more is there's all these bad things that are happening in the world that are opening up cracks for people to see why Bitcoin matters, right? I mean, all the bad fear-based reasons to buy Bitcoin are generally moving in the direction of coming true, generally.
Yeah.
However, in my experience, just like meeting other Bitcoiners and what we were talking about at the top of this was they're awesome. And if we can just like be great people and everyone knows that we're like, if you got into Bitcoin in the last year or two, or even before that, no one has forgotten that you're a Bitcoiner. You didn't shut up about it. And they think you're dead wrong. Yes. They remember.
Oh, they remember.
And yes. They know you're a Bitcoiner. They know who to come to if they ever want to get into Bitcoin. But what I'm realizing is like, we can talk about all the bad shit that's going to happen and maybe people will find Bitcoin. But what I'm realizing is like I've been talking about it for a little while. Maybe people just understand my consistency, but like also the better my business does, the more successful I am, the more my people take my my friends take my Bitcoin conversation seriously.
Totally.
So it's like, if we want to orange pill the world, we can just be the most badass people and people are going to want to emulate that. And I've met so many awesome Bitcoiners that's not just talk. It's like people are doing it, but a lot of people are not necessarily doing it in a, let me put myself out there as a Bitcoiner. And, I understand the privacy thing, like do your, like whatever you're comfortable with. But like, I live my life as a Bitcoiner. I put Bitcoin on my business. I'm about to put this next year. I'm going to put Bitcoin on all my bottles.
On the label. Yeah, you got to. Should put a QR code.
I have a lot of different ideas. What I'm most excited about is developing like specifically a Bitcoin bottle that's like all the Bitcoin stuff, like, and is only available for sale. Prices listed in Satoshis.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Price listed in Satoshis though.
In Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a fixed quantity of Bitcoin.
Going to be around. I mean, I picked the best barrel of my 2021 vintage, and I'll do that going forward. The best barrel is only available for Satoshis.
That's the Bitcoin barrel.
Yes.
Tight.
And so that's that's like 300 bottles ever in existence.
That's a barrel. 300
around. Yeah. I mean,
how many grapes does it take to make a barrel?
How many individual grapes, man? I think it's like,
I think it's like, however is the most. I'm just curious, like
maybe like 10 clusters or something, but like every cluster is different to a bottle. I'm sure someone could Google this.
How many acres of grapes do you need to make a barrel?
That's the seasonality thing. Like, so we have 3 acres in production, and the most barrels we've ever gotten is 18. One year I got 0. The last couple of years I've gotten 2.
That's like, all. Just 3 acres.
Yeah. That was a huge year. And like I got 2 barrels last year and 2 barrels 2 years before that and 0 in between. So like
600 bottles of
lots
wine.
of variance. Yeah. And like 2 barrels goes fast. When I'm selling wine, like 600 bottles goes pretty quick.
Right. Huh. I've got some land. I didn't realize you didn't need that much land, but you got to plan years ahead of time.
If you plant a vineyard, the quickest you see any return is 8 years.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. That's some low time preference there, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be what Bitcoin mining is like. Actually, you just might never see a return.
I mean, you got operating costs within it. Like, I guess you got operating costs in the grapes, or in running everything, but it's a lot of you're doing the work, so it's.
Well, I mean, like being a Bitcoiner and a business owner, like with that kind of like capital expenditure planning ahead of time, like obviously with Bitcoin being these prices, but also you have to give yourself runway to grow because it's your income. And I imagine this is like you want to do this full time.
Yeah. So
how do you decide like when to buy Bitcoin? When do you buy some hectares?
I mean, come on, there's no rhyme or reason why I buy Bitcoin.
It's just like the color of the wind, the color of the wind.
Yeah, I'm not a sophisticated
the smell of the ocean.
Yeah.
But seriously, like what do you do? Do you like, is it just based on how you feel? And if so, what are those emotions?
I mean, like I'm really into Bitcoin. If I'm like, I think it's going up forever, I buy, and like, I would say there's no specific plan. Just like the goal in my life is to run a successful business and not have to ever sell Bitcoin.
Right.
And so there may be a point where I decide that like buying something with Bitcoin is worthwhile. Like if there's some specific tract of land that I want, that's more valuable to me than the Bitcoin in a lot of ways.
So you're all for other people selling their Bitcoin to you, but you won't sell yours.
Yeah. So I don't think it makes financial sense. It doesn't. There's no reason that's like specifically countable or tangible to buy something with Bitcoin.
Well,
right?
and you can still pay you in Bitcoin with Strike. Like you can take dollars and they send you Bitcoin.
Totally. Yeah. And like realistically, like for me, I could just convert that to dollars, or I could convert every dollar that I get to Bitcoin. Like in the end, it doesn't make any like actual difference. But what it does for me psychologically is like I'd never want to sell my Bitcoin. So if you send me Bitcoin, it's staying as Bitcoin. And it's going into what it does is it gives me a stack that's like not necessarily it's not
KYC.
It's not KYC.
Yeah,
so when you buy Bitcoin, when you buy something with Bitcoin from someone that you care about, hopefully they are doing it in the right way, but like you are contributing to their non-KYC stack.
Oh, I just send mine straight from Coinbase to their wallet. That way Coinbase thinks it's me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean,
so
that's
they're
the
tracking the wrong guy for the next 30 years.
So when he commits a crime with that Bitcoin, you're screwed.
Aunt Suzanne is like going to buy groceries, and there's like the Interpol.
Yeah,
like,
you've been shut
Stop where you are.
No, so like there's that, and then there's kind of the like I'll give Bitcoiners a discount. I'll give you better service. But part of that's just like the interpersonal. Like this is a relationship that means more to me.
Well, so you're building your niche market. I mean, finding like niche verticals in your marketing. Like if you become like the Bitcoin wine guy, like that's you're not just the wine guy, because there's a million fucking wine guys, dude.
I don't know.
But if you're the Bitcoin wine guy, you now have a niche.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of snuck up on me. Like I got on Twitter to just shit post and learn about Bitcoin.
Well, dude, of course, but it has, and it's worked because I mean, that's like when I met you at the first meetup, I was like, oh, you're the wine dude. And then like, I don't know, in an hour, we're hosting a meetup about your wine brand.
Yeah.
For Bitcoiners.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll sell wine to people at that meetup, and that definitely helps with like me driving down here and funding that. But like, I want to do the meetup because I want to meet more Bitcoiners, because I will just, like I've been saying, like I just want awesome people in my life. And I've found that Bitcoiners are the best basket to choose from.
Well, dude, if you got money, I mean, if you got a good network, you don't need nearly as much money. Like you have to pay people to do stuff when they don't like you. But like I'll do shit for my close friends for free. I won't let them pay me.
Yeah.
But like for someone I don't like, there's not a price you could put. So I completely agree with that. It's like,
so I guess what I found like in wine, like when we were talking about starting, I was not this wino dude, and it was like I generally wanted the lifestyle and I wanted to run a business, and all of that worked out. The wine was just kind of a vehicle of like, this is what I'm going to do. And so the first few years of like getting into it and being like, okay, well, my life is going to revolve around wine.
Right.
What am I doing?
Right.
I've realized that like if you want to run a good business, you have to have at least some amount of insane passion towards it. And so my insane passion is not like I've grown to love wine and really be interested in it. Once you kind of get over a point and like can really start thinking and talking about it, it does change your ability to enjoy it. So I like it a lot more. But what I learned is I'm really passionate about people. I'm really passionate about building community and like helping people grow and become their best self. And like so in that, wine facilitates awesome conversations. It's a like conversation piece. And if I'm ever helping someone like with their business or with their life, like being a successful business owner, it kind of gives me some credibility to be able to be like, hey, try these things. It worked for me.
And it's wine too. I feel like wine is like it's not beer. It's not liquor.
It's something that's meant to make you think and have deep conversations.
And I don't know why this is the case. Maybe you're more privy, but for some reason, wine just feels like it's more artful, even though like there's craft beer.
And there's craft
whiskeys, right? And there's a similar amount of process and refinement and work that goes into, getting better at your craft every year.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, like wine doesn't get associated with like to me at least, like a lot of the negative effects, like the negative stigmas of like
of drinking,
yeah, in general. Like I went to LSU where like people was like tailgate, keg stands, like blackout,
I've heard, yeah.
Right? Or like. On the other end, like, okay, that's beer. Like on the other end, like even like whiskey, like is like, or tequila or like hard liquors are known as like, actually same kind of thing. Like people think typically of like abusers, like, not physical necessarily, but like people who abuse alcohol when you talk about spirits,
right? And
more like party vibe when you talk about beer, but wine is like a sneaky little tote in the line.
Yeah.
It's somehow like artful and about the food and stuff. So like,
exactly.
Why is it that way?
So I see wine as not that these other ones can't be this, but wine is specifically a multiplier to me. Whereas if I'm like getting people together for a wholesome occasion, which is a lot of times like, and I don't say that to like disparage on any other occasion. It's just like the meaningful stuff I do is like gonna be a lot of times around a dinner table with friends, and we're going to be sharing this meal that, I mean, where I am, everyone's like, I grew these tomatoes. My friend killed this bison and gave me some. Like, it's amazing. Right. It's all cool. These people's crafts, and wine kind of ties everything together. It's either the leader as far as like, hey, we have this wine, so let's pair something, or it's like, hey, we have this food, I have all these wines, let's find the right wine to pair with this. And it multiplies. Like, it takes everything you have and takes it to that next level. And I mean, the alcohol a lot of times for people is like, it's a loosener for a lot of people socially. I mean, you can use that as a crutch, or you can use it as something that's just enjoyable. But it also like just takes whatever you're doing food wise, communally wise, and like connects it all to you, makes you feel more comfortable connecting back. And it's kind of this cool feedback loop.
Yeah. I'm like just growing up around like in New Orleans, right? Like there's Mardi Gras and then LSU. Like I was surrounded by the wrong type of drinking culture my whole like young adult life. Big part of why I don't drink today. And I've never really drank wine. Like I've had some, and I get it, like, but I understand, but I've never been in that scenario where you're talking about, where it's like, here's my grapes, here's my bison, here's my wine that I,
so that's just like the beauty of where I live and the community I'm around.
It's a different association. It's a different way of looking at the product, right? Because I'm not really like, I think alcohol is bad for most people, like myself included. So I don't do it. But it doesn't fall in deaf ears that like, that just because I think that like doesn't mean that that's blanket objectively true for everyone. And I would be remiss not to acknowledge like the part about the social lubrication. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like when you're in high school and college, learning how to talk to girls, like dude, a couple beers will change your life, dude. You know, so
yes.
But it's
so I would just
I appreciate the let me
go for it.
Let me put it this way. I appreciate the angle and the art form that you bring to alcohol because it's so often associated with destroying lives, destroying finances, destroying physical body,
and it does,
destroying phones.
I mean, it's dangerous, man.
I know
alcohol is extremely dangerous. Both like addictively, it's bad. It's bad for you in a lot of ways, but like you can use it in positive ways.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I appreciate that you have found that not easy to get to, more of a nuanced point within the alcohol culture that isn't so bad, negative.
Yeah.
At least in my associations of it, what would be.
Well, so, I mean, I've had to face this head on. Like, I have unlimited wine. I own more wine right now than I could drink for the rest of my life.
Without self-control, you'd be screwed.
Yeah. And so, like, the first real year, like, you're making wine throughout, but there's a period of time right before bottling where you're tasting everything a ton. You know, you want to finalize things. I'm not doing much manipulation, but like, I want to know what things taste like before I put it in the bottle, right? And so I'm getting up, going to work, and I have wine in my mouth by 8:15.
But you're spitting it out.
I'm swallowing. It's in my mouth.
It's
right.
Yeah.
I'm 25 years old. I'm swallowing that wine.
Yeah. And that's,
And so
that's right.
You know, sometimes I would spit it out, whatever. But like, you know, by at least 4 o'clock, it's like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna swallow this one. You know, I'll have a drink after work. Like that's a normal thing to do in society. And it's already in my mouth. So I'm going to drink it. And then like a month, that's like kind of this month-long period where I was doing that. And by the, like going into the month, it like eventually got to the point where I was like, man, I need a drink. I could go for a drink. Like I need this. And I realized that it was very apparent to me that it was like, this is becoming an addiction. Like this is, I'm feeling the beginnings of what alcohol dependence is.
That's that same self-awareness though, is like probably why you figured out Bitcoin. What brought you towards this path of, and like probably same self-awareness is like why you find peace in the outside the cities, right? Being the millennial, most of us want to be in the cities. It's like, you know that about yourself and you're able to like have a heart to heart, I guess, with yourself. Like, if that makes sense. Like
if I want to achieve what I want to achieve, like both business and happiness wise, I can't be an alcoholic. I have unlimited alcohol. That's death.
Right.
You know?
Right. and you were like, I was just like from going on Twitter, like you were involved in like pretty dangerous, like winter sports and stuff too. Right. Like, so
yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been
the skiing while drunk, which I don't know, might add to the danger factor.
Sure. First time I skied drunk, I was like, how do people do this? Like, this is so scary. And then you kind of just get used to it.
Yeah.
I don't ski. Like, I think it's really scary to ski from the Front Range. Like, there's so many people, and like everyone drinks, but like everyone drinks everywhere. Skiing, it's just there's a lot more people.
What do you mean ski from the Front Range? Like around people who come from the Front Range?
No, I mean like when you're living in Denver and you ski from the Front Range, you ski all the same resorts, and there's like millions of people trying to ski the same resorts, and so it's just extremely crowded. Yeah,
so you're running into people more likely.
Like I grew up skiing Aspen, Crested Butte, Powderhorn, mountains that are not crowded at all.
Aspen's not crowded?
No.
Really? Just because it's so elite?
Well, for like, you know,
so
for
exclusive.
Christmas it gets crowded, but like there's also 4 mountains for one destination town.
Oh, right. You got Beaver Creek and all out there.
Aspen, Highlands, and Snowmass and Buttermilk.
Snowmass, that's right.
And Snowmass gets a lot of people. It's
Buttermilk, I don't think I've heard of that one.
But like it's kind of a funny juxtaposition because I was always very much the person who leapt before I looked and just like sent it. Had like 15 concussions and lots of injuries, and just I love what it is like that moment where you're like, holy shit, I'm out of control. I got to dial this in or I'm screwed. That's the most like life-giving moment I have.
Yeah.
And
your closest moments towards death
and
like where you feel most alive.
I like crave that an insane amount. It's amazing. But at the same time, like now that I've had this many injuries and concussions specifically, like just totally blew my world apart. I've had to slow down. I've been absolutely forced to physically slow down. And in that journey, I've found Bitcoin. I found a low time preference business. And those two things to like throw my passion into away from that like insane moment have really helped me find peace in not seeking that anymore. I still ski hard and I still mountain bike hard, but like,
Yeah.
I also am like, I don't really want to get hurt today, when I didn't have that feeling before.
I did some reckless stuff on bikes. I was on LSU's cycling team and gotten a few bad
road bikes.
Yeah,
Nice.
gotten a few bad bike crashes, separated my shoulder.
That's the most painful thing.
Which still, like, I deal with it every moment of every day for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And like, nothing like a long-term injury to remind you constantly of your mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do that enough and you start realizing that maybe you don't want to keep doing it.
Right. Well, and it also wakes you up. You know, I think everything is like a part of the path, you know, like it made me realize like, oh, I'm not invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Things I do have consequences. Maybe I shouldn't drink while I'm riding my bike. You know, like there's lessons in things. If you want adrenaline though, just like try sending your entire Bitcoin stack in one transaction.
Well, after
I never clicked the button, dude. It's like I clicked no because it's like,
My
are you
hand's
sure this
shaking.
is the right? And it's like no, because like my was shaking so hard that I meant to click yes.
Oh
but
man.
just like convulsing. I'm just kidding. There was no yes or no because there's no yes or no in a self custody.
Well, and also
wallet.
you just finished explaining to me that that's not the thing I should do.
What?
Move all my Bitcoin in one go.
Oh yeah, definitely don't do that. I mean, unless you want the whole world to know that you own. Well, we were talking about like UTXO selection and consolidation, and essentially like you want to keep different size bills in your wallet so that, you know, you spend the appropriate size bill for the appropriate size transaction. So you don't wind up spending like $50,000 bill at buying a pack of gum and telling the grocery store clerk that you have $50,000
right
when you only need to tell them you have two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's the idea behind that stuff. Hopefully that like coin control algorithm, because there's several different implementations of how to do coin control, because if you don't do it manually, there's an algorithm that selects it for you.
Right.
Hopefully that gets better, because I think like,
yeah. So do you just see that generally being automated?
I hope so, but like how automated is it going to get?
Well, personal choice comes into it, but I mean, if we're looking down the line, like all of this stuff generally needs to just be done for the person.
I don't think you'll use UTXOs mostly. I don't believe you'll transact on chain.
That's real.
So I don't think that'll matter.
Okay.
So it's a rabbit hole, dude. It's going to keep changing. So I do think like that's going to get better. Wallet self-custody is going to get better. Things like NFC are going to get more widely adopted, because, you know, typing in little things into a ledger device, that's not a good UX.
Yeah.
It's getting better, but it's not there yet. So how are we doing on time there? What does it say? On the top left. Cool. All right. We got like 45 minutes for the meetup. So, well, let's see. So I've got a couple other things here. We kind of hit on rural city Colorado, but I wanted to spend a bit more time contrasting those two. So, like, what do you think are the biggest differences? Maybe not even just Colorado, but we can start there and maybe expand to just general rural city life.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is like the biggest differences between like rural city Colorado and I would say more like from a lifestyle, more so, but then also like from a worldview, like how are those types of people different?
Right. And I mean, in each place you're going to find different people, but I think there are some general themes. And every time I lived in Denver for 2 years straight and a couple other times. So whenever I come back to Denver, like I am right now, it's kind of a stark reminder of like where I was and what life is like. Cause I am familiar with this place. But it's always, you know, I live somewhere else. I live in a totally different world. It's a nice reminder and kind of shocks me, honestly. I get living in a city. I got lucky leaving when I did, because basically I was planning on moving back and building a house with my dad, continuing the wine business. COVID hits, everything shuts down, and it's like, well, that worked out pretty good.
Good thing I'm out of the city.
Yeah, good thing I'm out of here. Whereas like before that, I was like, oh man, I'm leaving the city. Like I'm leaving all my friends. I'm going to go like live back where I grew up. And
so made the decision. You had already made the decision.
I'd already made the decision.
But it made it a lot easier to where you just
the FOMO
didn't second guess it.
Was completely gone.
Okay. And
so that really helped me. And I'm really thankful for that because now looking back, I'm so happy that I'm away from it.
Yeah.
There's like different pockets of what rural life looks like. So like living in Aspen for the winter, very different world than living in a farming town. And so I can really speak for the farming town is my home, and what I want to be around is all these people that are like down to just put in the hard work. I mean, if something's got to get done, they do it. And there's no time to listen to someone complain. I mean, like it's pretty stark, honestly. Like people just get shit done. And it's pretty impressive.
Proof of work.
Yeah.
Big mindset
so like,
up there.
When I think like, oh man, cool, I'm doing great things. You know, my business is succeeding and I'm doing these awesome things. But I'm like, damn, that guy works 14 hours in the field. Like, because that's the time of year, because it's just, I need to get this stuff planted. This stuff needs to get done. I'm like, wow, I'm LARPing. I don't do I don't do anything. You know, I work long days, but like you kind of just, it's kind of just the culture to put in a lot of time and get the stuff done that needs to get done. And being out there, there's so much to aspire to hard work wise. And like, I'm building the life I want, you know, I'm going to work hard and do whatever, but like you see the physical work. And when you're kind of separated from that and it's just like, oh, you work in the field 14 hours, that must suck. It's like you work in an office and you can't even you can't even physically touch what you've produced for the day. You can't go walk out in your field and enjoy your work. That's such a like magical thing that you just have no contact with when you're living in the city.
Huh. And then, yeah, wow. And you're like sitting inside, which is like probably bad for your like mood and stuff.
Look, I work inside too. I work in a wine cellar that has no light.
Like, yeah, but you're like hunched over looking at a computer. Screws your posture up.
Right.
Get carpal tunnel. I mean, you're not moving.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure, you might be working in like dark cellar still. Okay, maybe the light thing isn't for in this case, but still, like you're out moving. Like you're not sitting still, stationary at a desk all day, which has like there's all kinds of data that says like for a million reasons it's bad. Like,
and that's generally the job of someone who lives in a city. I mean, that's not everyone by any stretch of the imagination.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you don't like the meme in Bitcoin is like get up and go touch grass, right? Or I see that a lot at least. And it's like a lot of times I'm reading that like sitting, thank God I get to sit down for a little bit, you know, because I was just touching grass for the last 8 hours and I'm tired.
Right.
But there's no connection to the world in a city. Like I just completely feel like I'm surrounded by concrete.
That irony?
Yeah.
Considering there's more people and like all that.
And well, there's more people, but none of those people have connection to the world. Their only connection to the world is when they escape on the weekends to go to a crowded place where everyone else goes and is trying to escape from the world and then comes back and is like, oh, now I'm stressed out again because of traffic.
Yeah. I don't know. The cities just remind me of fiat. And fiat I think I'm probably like on a bit of an anomaly here and like how I view this, but like, and again, a lot of it stems from like my own personal experiences, but like cities remind me of the fiat rat race and the pleading, just cannot wait for 5 o'clock to come so I can get out of the rat race temporarily and go drink and like escape it. And like when I realized that fiat was like why I drank, because I was like, it wasn't like, it was a huge part of why, because I was like, it was what I was trying to escape from. Now I still have a 9-to-5 job. I work for a Bitcoin company. I'm thrilled to wake up.
Hell yeah.
I'm bummed when the day's over.
That's what
because
matters.
I'm like, what am I going to do now? I guess I'm going to record a podcast about Bitcoin.
Yep.
But literally, I love my job. I love the industry I work in. I feel like what we're doing is for long-term good purpose.
It's meaningful. You're doing something
meaningful work
that like benefits other people in the world.
I can't touch
completely.
it. You know? No, nobody can touch Bitcoin.
And that's just specifically that like something like growing up, my dad was always like, when we did a project together, when we finished, he always said, take a second to look over your work and just appreciate what you did. And I was like, bullshit, Dad. Like, I want to go inside and play video games.
Right.
But looking back, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm living in the world I created.
I do that with the podcast. Throughout the editing process, I find myself occasionally sometimes being like, this is cool. Like, I made this. Like, I invited this guest. I helped uncover their story. I'm putting it out there to the world and editing it, and cool. Like, I made this. And then, like, it's like, you made this? No, I made this. You know what I'm talking about?
No, you got a product. I mean, and that's kind of just,
it's fulfilling though. It's rewarding. But even though it doesn't get a ton of views, even though I don't make a bunch of money on the podcast, like, I only do it for that reason that you're talking about.
It's the only reason you could, right?
Because I'm not supporting myself with the podcast. Like, and I really I do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking to people who have really interesting perspectives to share. And there's that satisfaction of like, God, we were talking about the editing process. I can't wait to get an editor. Right. And it's like, but that being said, like, I still do it and I still enjoy it. And there's that moments of like, I'm proud of what I built. And I think the delayed gratification will be even stronger, where it's like 25 years from now, I'm 55, 60, whatever. Bitcoin's the world currency. And I'm like, holy shit. First 30 episodes of Value Stack are all billionaires.
Right.
All those people are billionaires.
Yeah.
This is like a historical archive now. And like, those people are like, we're all close because we all connected around that same thing that was like such an important topic in our life at that time, that we're friends forever.
Totally. I mean, this is such a foundational time of all of our lives. Like, there's, like, I keep talking about wanting to meet more Bitcoiners, but it's like, this is the thing I'm most passionate about. And it's changed me so much. I know it's changed you. You've talked about it. And I know it's probably changed like every Bitcoiner that I talk to. It's like, this is something that we're definitely going to bond over. And if we just have like one other thing that we're also like share in common, whether that's just fucking work ethic, like, I respect you, we're going to get along really well because we both have this base level passion around one thing. And I mean, it's such a foundational thing that you can just build anything on top of it.
No shortcuts. Yeah, dude. Proof of work is it's a mindset, I think.
And I love that I find that so much in the rural areas. And like, I grew up there. I was raised with like ranchers and coal miners that like bullied the shit out of me because I was like a hippie and played soccer. And more so than them at least. And so I grew up like being like, fuck those guys. I don't like them. And like, I don't like that lifestyle. And then now here I am moving back and be like, damn, that's
trying
like,
to spread it to the world.
Those guys were dicks, but also like their family had it right in a lot of ways, you know? And I have so much respect of like, wow, you woke up before school and did cattle chores, like you worked your ass off all the time. And like, I saw you in the school environment and you weren't good at school, but you were damn good at something else. And I didn't see that until now. And now I'm like, I don't care what you're good at. And especially like, I don't really I respect someone being good at whatever they're good at. But like, if you're just good at school, like, cool. I want you to be good at something in the real world. And that's going to be awesome. And like, I want to see you perform and just be the best at that. I don't care what it is. Like, you just saying like, I do this because I'm passionate about it is like music to my ears. That's all I want to hear people doing is like something that you're passionate about, because you can't be good at anything unless you're passionate about it.
Right.
When you
if you make money on it, then it's like, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
totally.
You do something you enjoy, even if you didn't make money, you still do it anyway.
Yeah.
But because you enjoy it and do it for the right reasons and you're good at it, you wind up making money on it.
So that's what I'm
hoping for with this.
Yeah.
And it's not working yet, but
that's where like Twitter has changed my life in that way. Is like, I was just like wanting to share my life because I like talking and connecting to people. Like, I'm an extrovert, and then people started buying my wine and it's like, oh, I'm just like talking shit and posting my life on Twitter.
And people relate to that.
People are relating to this. And I have a good product and people like it and want to support me.
Right.
And like, I got Bitcoin integrated. I got the ability to sell wine for Bitcoin. Liquor licensing kind of just made it difficult for me in July last year. And since then, it's like, I went from 0 to like a baseline level of sales that I'm like, oh, that was instant and consistent. And this is at the bottom of a bear market. And over half my online sales are in Bitcoin. And I would say 90% of them are to Bitcoiners.
And when you're hodling that coin, you're going to be selling those bottles
I'm selling
for
these
$10,000 a piece.
Whenever someone buys wine, whenever someone buys wine with Bitcoin, I say, this is the most expensive bottle you will ever buy.
Sorry. Hope you enjoy it, though.
Yeah, they're going to like it, and they'll remember. And it's like...
You could replace those Bitcoin that you spend right away.
Yeah, so a lot of people do spend and replace, but there's been...
Poor tax strategy, unless you're down.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, it might be a good strategy.
Maybe a lot of us are. Maybe the people that are spending Bitcoin on wine are not. But man, it's just been... I would just like recommend anyone who's a Bitcoiner who runs a business, like integrate that shit. And like, even if you... I mean, I think there's a little bit of difference. Like, if I pay you in Bitcoin, I want you to keep that Bitcoin. If you convert it to dollars, I'm what the fuck did I just pay Bitcoin for? You know?
Right. No, right.
Totally. So there's a little bit of that, but there's also, like we were talking about, like, it doesn't actually make sense to like...
No, it doesn't.
Transact. But at the same time, it's fun. And what I've learned is like, I was really shitty at using Bitcoin. And then I started accepting it and I had to get good. And I had to figure my stuff out.
About like address reuse and coin control and all this stuff.
All stuff I'm still very much learning about, but like I had no idea. And so many people come up and want to buy wine with Bitcoin or do it online. And that's like, this is my first ever purchase with Bitcoin. And that's just like very humbling to me to be like, wow, this is the first thing you ever bought with Bitcoin. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah. Mine was a Lightning channel.
Nice. Yeah. Bitcoin related.
I bought a Bitcoin Lightning channel with Bitcoin.
There we go.
And I realized I was like, oops, this is going to make tax record keeping.
Yeah, you were telling me a little bit about the Lightning channels you had open last time we were talking, and
tax nightmare.
Definitely made me realize, like, yeah, you're gonna just do whatever works on Lightning. You're gonna go along for the ride.
Yeah, just take on chain.
Yes.
When I was doing Lightning on chain, on chain fees were like 50 sats a byte, 30 sats per byte, so it was like $10-$15 to send Bitcoin. It was in like 2021. Now, like,
so I accept pretty much, like, if someone wants to do an on-chain transaction, like, I'm there for it, but like, I'm also have to totally trust that person to, like, if they walk away with my wine and just cancel that transaction, like, that blows.
Well, so
it's not really that. Can't you send a transaction? It doesn't go through. It doesn't get confirmed, and then cancel it.
Bro, you're gonna be like, turn off full RBF. No CPFP.
Basically, what I'm getting at is like
RBF.
I pretty much do.
What you're saying is that there's a problem with zero confirmation.
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, this is a hot debate right now with John Carvalho and what's the other guy that's like putting up Peter Todd, I believe, is like kind of, those are the two against there's two sides essentially. One's for full RBF flag, one is not. To my understanding, John Carvalho uses zero conf in his transactions as a merchant, so he doesn't want people to be able to RBF always by default.
Yeah,
meaning that zero comps are dead. Can never do zero comp.
Okay.
Peter Toss is given choice, and he's like putting a bounty for people to turn it on. So it's like pretty crazy. But yeah, that's the thing like going on right now, like in the protocol discussion, because it was just updated where now you can flag full RBF, and it, no matter whether the transaction flags RBF or not, it treats it as an RBF. So you shouldn't accept on chain for zero conf. Like, unless it's settled, you shouldn't let them walk away with the wine.
No, sure.
Which is a poor merchant services thing.
No, and it's also like, I could make that person wait. I could.
Yeah, but that's like, why? Okay, I'll just pay in cash then. I don't want to sit here and wait 25 minutes until the Bitcoin.
Yeah, but also,
the hash rate dropped and now there hasn't been a block in 1 hour, and I'm sitting here and missed my dentist appointment because I'm waiting for the random walk of Bitcoin's blockchain to hit a random number. So like, yeah, that's a poor.
So I'm not going to like
experience.
That's not my general accepting policy. Like, I accept Lightning transactions for the most part. If someone only has Bitcoin on chain or doesn't know how to do Lightning, like, one, I want to help them set up a Lightning.
Dude, if I sold wine to someone and they sent me Bitcoin and then double spent it back to themselves, I would find them. Oh, I would hunt them down, dude. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you double spend me?
I mean, it's breaking.
This was created to solve the double spend problem. How dare you?
I mean, it's definitely breaking like this like feeling of trust. That's like, I beat you as a Bitcoiner. Like, you're trusting me that I have a good product that's worth your Bitcoin, and like, also just like generally, like we were saying, like I want to meet other Bitcoiners because I found relate to them. But like, I didn't have my Lightning. Dan Held came up to my stand at one of my farmers markets, and I was just like doing shit, and I turned around, I'm like, holy shit, that's Dan Held at my winery. Like, you know, he's someone that like I don't listen to much anymore, but like when I was first getting into Bitcoin, he's someone I learned a lot from. Sure. It was like someone I was like, holy shit, this person is here.
He told me all about Gemini and Celsius and Ledin, all the lenders. He actually had a whole video breaking down, comparing and contrasting the different crypto lenders.
Yes, and I used Ledin for a while.
I did too.
And nothing has happened, but I'm glad I got out.
Yeah, I got out too.
I've learned through other people's the hard way.
It's been a long time since I flirted with destiny like that.
Same. And like, it's real nice to have control.
Actually it worked out. Got some free sats. Let's go.
Yeah. That's real.
And then paid taxes.
But like what I was getting at is like, I didn't have my Lightning situation.
Right. So you wanted to pay with Lightning and you didn't have it.
I didn't have it. So I was like, can you do on chain? And
he didn't want to pay with on chain.
No, he wants to do Lightning, but he's like, whatever.
You know why he didn't want to pay on chain?
I don't.
Because
something specific.
What we were talking about.
Yeah, no, what we were talking about, exactly.
Because if he sends you, let's say, I don't know what Dan has. Let's say Dan's got 1,000 Bitcoin.
Right. Well,
he doesn't want to send you
that I have.
Because now you know forever that any remainder change that Dan got sent back to himself, that address is Dan's. And if he accidentally carelessly combines it with his big stack of UTXOs, now you know Dan Held's balance.
Sure.
So this is
that's something I didn't even think about.
Perhaps it was a fee environment. And he was just like, I just don't want to pay on chain.
What he brought up
could have been that too.
Well, on chain fees
especially
are low.
Being him,
but agree.
That he Dan would be somebody who would think about that type of thing. I would think.
Yeah, I totally agree. What he brought up was like, oh well, on chain fees are low. Like that's fine. You know, I want to support you as a Bitcoiner running a business.
Oh, so he did. So he didn't care.
No, so he did an on-chain transaction, but what I was getting at is like I didn't wait for him I didn't wait for confirmations. I'm like, Dan Held is not gonna.
Oh yeah, well,
and like that's a known person. I know.
Stupid to screw his reputation over for a bottle of wine,
right? For a couple bottles of wine, but that's like so generally, like dumb.
He would never do
maybe
that.
A couple other people have done that, and it's like there's never been an issue. It's always gone through. I'm not terribly worried about it. If you're coming up to me in 2022 to buy something in Bitcoin, you're probably not a total shyster.
The fee in Bitcoin is calculated as like in Bitcoin, right? It's like 400 sats or 8,000 sats or whatever.
Starts to be expensive.
Shit, dude. I'm not even, I hope to not be paying for, I hope things are less than 1,000 sats. Like, I hope my burger is like 25 sats.
Right.
So I definitely don't want to pay 800 sats to buy a 25 sat burger. That seems kind of absurd.
Yeah.
It should be PPM, like parts per million, like Lightning Network, which is like a percentage. So, you know, my 25 sat burger costs 0.25 sats or 0.0025 sats to millisats to send it.
Right.
So long way to go, man. This is January 2023. So we still got, you know, another year and a half or so before the halving. Probably another 50 years before we're billionaires.
But damn, is there like some awesome like energy and strength in this bottom of this bear market. I mean, I've like just in the last year, as we've been continuously going down for literally a year, my life in the Bitcoin world has completely changed from meeting other Bitcoiners and feeling their energy and passion. Like that has not changed at all and is just like full on strength. If you're here right now, like I know that you're real. I know that you get it. And that's a pretty cool place to build a base of a community from.
Agreed, man. That's why I think it's gonna be a good turnout tonight because we're practicing what we preach. We're going to meet up with a bunch of Bitcoiners at a food hall / a
little bit of everything
winery. You can't sell your wine.
No,
there.
I can't do that.
I was wondering that, like, I was wondering if they could have like made you charge like a cork fee or something and let you do it. But
Colorado has laws that don't allow any outside alcohol to be brought in. There's other states where you can do a corkage fee, but not in Colorado.
Dude, in Louisiana, there was a ramen shop. They didn't serve liquor. They didn't even charge you a cork bottle fee.
Just bring it in.
Just bring it in.
Yeah.
We would go there and get plastered, dude. Bring like a 6-pack of Abitas. Dude, have 6 beers with dinner. Nice.
New Orleans is just such a different world when it comes to alcohol, man.
Dude. Like for better or for worse, better because I quit drinking a lot younger than most people do. Worse because it took that to get there.
Yeah.
It's a whole different culture of drinking. And it's fascinating to me because it's different than the drinking culture we're talking about. And it's, I guess to the unsuspecting person, it might be similar to like Bitcoin and crypto culture too. And I'm really stretching here to like connect the dots, but like they seem the same, but they're not.
Totally.
Like, they're very different. And where it comes from internally, like why the why is different.
Yeah. We just see where like everyone experiences both sides of the drinking, or at least one side of the drinking. But yeah, no one's not so much of the population is not invested enough to know why, they can get why drinking a glass of wine with a nice meal and good friends is like awesome. And it's an additive thing. And the alcohol, maybe you stayed up late and you drank a little too much or whatever. You might feel a hangover. If you drink natural wine, you're probably not going to feel a hangover, which is great.
That's great.
But like, that's the lumping. It's the
black
drinking
and white
is
polarization
drinking.
thing.
Bitcoin is crypto. It's like people just don't see the nuance at all. And we also know like when I'm talking to my friends, I'm like, okay, cool. You don't get it? Yeah. I was really like a nerd about this and totally dove in, and it still took me like 6 months to a year to have like any semblance of understanding. And you look back on that and it's like, I didn't get it yet. You know, I'm still learning.
Right.
You are interested in other things and not math oriented. Like it's going to take you longer. And you just gotta be humble and explaining. Yeah. But then I was talking to a friend last night of like, I'm glad like my microeconomics class is the best grade I got in college. It's my favorite class.
Mine too.
But like,
no surprise we're into Bitcoin.
I'm also very happy that I didn't go further down the economics path because I already had so much unlearning to do from all the NPR economics podcasts I listened to.
You know, people think that I give credit to my economics degree for why I figured it out, because the more I understood how the fiat system economics worked, the more I saw through the bullshit.
This is true.
Like I credit, yes, it was a waste of time because I learned that it was bullshit, but at the same time, it helped me realize it was BS, where things like my medicine, I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're right about the vaccines and I'm just an idiot conspiracy theorist. Like as an example, like I don't have knowledge there. So I really can't weigh in, and I certainly can't trust my opinion more than those of like the broad majority when it comes to something that I'm not like, I just don't know. Like, so I have to do a lot of extra research on those topics.
In the end, your opinion is what you have to trust because it's the only opinion that.
Right. And it's like, I can't just, or maybe let me rephrase. I can't trust my like default, like first, okay, I think it's this. And so it must be. Like,
you may
have
not
to go
be
and
right.
do some digging. Your first reactionary thought may not be, whereas like, because I've had so much background in economics and money and monetary policy and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I know. Like people like Peter Zahan, who are renowned authors, could say something so stupid on Joe Rogan. And I have the confidence to say, he's wrong, I'm right. I don't care how many books he's wrote. I don't care how much money he's worth. I don't care how many academic awards he's won. He's wrong about this subject.
But on another subject, no way.
I would defer. I wouldn't even have the balls to even say that I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Because most things I'm like out of my domain.
Yeah.
But like,
you're like, I listen to different experts.
Yeah.
That's
like,
all you can really say.
Yeah, but like this, like I asked you about Andrew Huberman, because you were saying like getting sunlight, because he like talks about getting sunlight in the morning, right? I listen to experts where unless they don't make sense, which is what kind of happened with the
specifically that's something that you can put into practical operation and test for yourself, though.
Right.
I mean, like nutrition, health, all that stuff is something you can actually go in and test on your own body.
With economics, there's no way to test. The only way to test,
but there are numbers.
But the only way to test economics is to like see what happens to real people. There's no like laboratory simulation.
Nope.
You just run the numbers. And if it works, then you run the experiment, which is real people's lives.
Yeah.
And hope it doesn't fuck them up.
Yep.
So good luck, everybody.
Right.
Like, we're throwing darts at a board based on calculations, and we'll record the results and analyze them after, right? You can't predict economic behavior nearly to that, like, because you can't test it until, like, you can't test it in a real simulation. And because it's a catallaxy, meaning that each individual actor is like on their own, and you can't possibly like account for every person's individual preferences that change constantly. Any like simulation you're gonna have is like, it's just a simulation. Like, you don't know it's gonna actually run that way.
And so how we know Bitcoin works is how we've seen ourselves change.
Yeah, Bitcoin. You don't change Bitcoin. Tell Roger Ver in case you need to hear this. You don't change Bitcoin. It changes you, right?
Seriously,
sure does. Well, where can our listeners find out more about your wine and your shit posted on Twitter so that they can be changed?
On Twitter, I am at bjusty1, and my wine is at peonylane.com.
You spell that?
Peony. And unfortunately, due to liquor regulations and having to use a third-party fulfillment service to ship across state lines, because I only have a liquor license in Colorado, I have to use a separate app to process Bitcoin transactions. So Oshi app, OSHI, is awesome. They have a lot of awesome Bitcoin products there. I mean, they've been killer for me. And it does take an extra step. You do have to purchase with Bitcoin. You purchase a gift card there and then apply that to my site. And you do have to make a separate fiat transaction to pay for shipping. So you're jumping through an extra hoop, but I give you 10% off for that because I love spreading just Bitcoin use and adoption, and don't really care if it hurts my bottom line, if that's what it is.
It's like, not enough to make a difference. It helps in your marketing.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, it's probably the better business decision to just facilitate that, but it's also like, it's cool educationally to like work with people on their first Bitcoin transaction for fiscal good.
I like what Michael and them are doing at the team. Oshi, they're like, it's like all about farm to table Bitcoin circular economy. Mm-hmm. We had talked about getting like gift cards up on there, but I don't know. It's not yet. But yeah, man. So Oshi app, direct on the website. If you're in Colorado,
if you're in the United States, I can sell to you. There's a couple states like Utah that
nobody drinks in Utah.
No one drinks in Utah. But if you're in the United States, you can order on my website. If you're not in the United States, you're just going to have to come visit Peony.
And Oshi is for Bitcoin purchases. If you want to buy it through Bitcoin.
Yes.
The Oshi app. Sweet, man. Well, any final parting words of wisdom or just a message that you want to get out there to the world for forever to end this episode?
I mean, in my experience, I think the way to get people to buy Bitcoin at the tops is to talk about the fear and like, oh, you can be rich with this. But like, if we're trying to build like a long-term, get our friends into Bitcoin and just make the world better, I think just like build yourself first, become an awesome person and do it as a Bitcoiner. Everyone knows you're a Bitcoiner, but be confident about that. And you're like, this is a big part of my life. And then people will see that, emulate it. And hopefully in the next cycle, we have a lot more awesome Bitcoiners.
I like that approach. Like, be a badass and do it for Bitcoin. Like,
do it with Bitcoin.
Do it, like, whatever that is, and let Bitcoin, let Bitcoin's brand ride your coattails. It's like, damn, he got in great shape. He takes care of his family. He's like knows how to control his emotions and his finances and his friends and How did he do it? It's Bitcoin, baby.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, what we're saying, we all started with learning about
like
Bitcoin.
Popeyes, like there's the spinach, dude, but it's like it's big. I just take my daily dose of Bitcoin.
Yep,
my orange pill.
Yep, my orange pill. There we go.
Well, this has been a fun time, Ben. Glad you came down, and we're gonna do this for another 2 more hours non-recording with
hopefully some awesome people,
with some more Bitcoiners. Mm-hmm. So well, a couple of years we'll get you back on the show, and Peony Lane Wine is the biggest Bitcoin brand in wine. Biggest wine.
Realistically, probably already is.
Yeah, it probably already is. Well. You could put
growing from here though.
You can put that on your bottle next year.
Number
one selling Bitcoin brand, number one selling wine, number one selling wine brand for Bitcoin.
Yes. And well, I'll have a Bitcoin wine next year. At the end of this fall. So
top selling brand in the world.
Top grossing in Bitcoin terms.
Bitcoin brand, wine brand in the world.
There we go.
Dude, that's huge.
Yeah. I need to get that on the website.
Top grossing Bitcoin wine brand in the world. Amazing. Well, get your some top grossing Bitcoin wine brand, Peony Lane Wine. On the website, was it Peony?
Peony Lane Wine. Yeah.
Peony?
Peony.
Peony Lane. Peony Lane. It's a good name. That's like the...
I live on Peony Lane.
Yeah, we're going to have to work on your OPSEC, bro.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to the episode. This was 32, I think. 31, 32, something like that. Mm-hmm. Just check the title of the show and you'll be able to figure it out. We'll see you next time. This has been Value Stack Podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.